Again, I'm just going to go over some ground rules before we get started. Again, this is a place where you are more than welcome to ask your questions. We have an influential campus partner here who has a lot of experience with working with BSU, so please feel free to ask any questions. But again, we want you to just make sure that you keep it confidential. We want to keep your student just safe. This will be recorded, so this will be uploaded to our BSU private families page and then uploaded to our orientation YouTube page. If you want to go back and watch it at any time. I'm going to get started and introduce myself, and then we'll get started with the Q&A. So my name is Megan. It's so nice to meet you. I'm one of the student orientation coordinators for the orientation office, and I'm going to hand it over to my partner, Michelle.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle. I'm one of the other student orientation coordinators for the orientation program, and I'm going to be mainly looking at the chat and doing some more tech side of this kind of stuff while Megan's asking a lot of the questions.
And I'm going to hand it off to our man of the day.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Michelle. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. It's 12:05. It is afternoon. Thank you, first of all, for having me part of this session. I appreciate the opportunity. As Megan said, my name is Michael Froyo. I'm the Assistant Chief of Police for the BSU Police Department. Give you a little background on myself. I have been in law enforcement for 24 years. I started my career at Framingham State, then college, police department as a dispatcher, part-time, and then I was promoted to full-time officer about 6 or 8 months later. I worked at Framingham State PD for 4 years as a full-time officer. I came to BSU in the summer of 1999 as a part-time officer and was working both departments. I transferred full-time to BSU PD in, I believe it was September of 2000. And I have, so I've been here almost 20 years, actually 21 years soon. I was promoted to lieutenant in 2003 and then to captain in 2011. And in 2017, I was promoted to assistant chief. I predominantly handle the areas of administration and the division of administration within the police department. Our department is broken up into 4 major divisions, and I handle all the fun, exciting stuff that goes with administration, payroll and overtime and details. And one of the best parts of my job is the community outreach unit, and I head that up and do a lot of the outreach programming for the PD and for the university. Been married for 21 wonderful years in May. To my bride. We've been together for 24 years. I have 2 boys. My oldest son is just graduated high school last month, and my youngest will be a junior next year in high school. So I think maybe that's me in a nutshell. I can Megan, turn it back to you. I can give just a quick overview of the PD if you'd like before we get started.
Yeah, that'd be great if you don't mind.
Okay, great. So the Bridgewater State University Police Department is charged with the protection of the lives and the property of all of our students, faculty, staff, and visitors, as well as other passageways that adjoin university property. Police department staff work with our community members to prevent crime, solve problems, and take proactive steps to make BSU as safe as we possibly can. I will say, and I'm going to brag a little bit, but according to a new analysis of an FBI and U.S. Department of Education data, Bridgewater State University was ranked the 4th safest college and university in the country, and the first, #1 in New England. So that's outstanding, and that's not just because of the great work that the police department does, but that's a joint effort between the wellness centers, community standards, the president's office, your department, new student family programs, etc. It's a joint effort, and we're proud of that ranking. So with that, I'm going to brag a little bit more. The BSU PD is widely recognized as the premier state university police department in Massachusetts. Simply put, we're the best. I always say we're the best in the state, and we are the flagship of the state university police departments. All of our officers attend a full municipal police academy. It's the same academy that city and town police officers attend. It's a 6-month program, a regional academy in Massachusetts. We have full police authority both on BSU property as well as throughout the town of Bridgewater. We enforce state laws, including motor vehicle laws, as well as university rules, regulations, etc. We have a number of regional partnerships within our community. We have a great relationship with the Bridgewater Police, the Bridgewater Fire, Plymouth County Sheriff's Department. We're members of SEMLEC, which is the Southeastern Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council, in various capacities there. We have all the tools necessary to respond to virtually any type of incident or emergency on the BSU campus. So I'll kind of stop there, and we can talk about some of the other things we do and some of the services that we offer a little bit later on in the presentation. I don't want to go on forever, so I want to give people the opportunity to ask any questions or anything that may be on their mind.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Because we have a small group, please feel free to turn your camera on if you're comfortable. If not, you can ask your question in the chat feature. If you don't have a question, I will jump in a few minutes. So we'll give it a couple minutes. All right, so Assistant Chief, if you could go over what are the safety procedures like on campus, I think that'd be a great way to start off.
Of course. So we have a number of different mechanisms in place for safety. So first, we have what is called the blue light phones. We have somewhere in the vicinity of 50 or 60 or so emergency phones throughout the university property. They're referred to as blue light phones as they have a blue light that illuminates over them. It's an emergency call box. People can dial 911 from the call box by just pressing a red emergency button. And that dials directly into our police station's dispatch communication center. All of our 911 lines are recorded. Some of the newer phones have cameras built in so that we can see the person who's calling in the area immediately surrounding them. Some of the call boxes in the parking garage, all of them have cameras, and all of them have an automated external defibrillator, an AED, in the cabinet, and we can release that AED by pressing a button in the communication center. I will talk a little bit more about the AED program in a minute. Has to do with safety, but we also have a smartphone app that the university has launched. The IT department maintains it. It's called Rave Guardian, and it's a free smartphone app. Essentially, it's an emergency communication device that allows students, faculty, and staff to connect directly with police dispatch in an emergency. So if they're out and about and they have their phone out, if they're walking to and from class, if they have this app open, they can press the Call BSU Police. It's an emergency button. They push the button, it calls into our dispatch center. Their photo, if they supply it, will pop up on our screen that handles Rave, and their exact or somewhat exact location by using the GPS in their smartphone. And it'll tell us where they're calling from. So if they can't speak or they get disconnected, we can go to the last known location that comes in on the screen, send an officer to check on them. They can also connect with other guardians. As an example, parents could be guardians with students. You need to have a Bridgewater EDU account in order to sign up for it and utilize it. But to be a guardian, you do not need a BSU email account. You just sign up for the app. We do get, some calls on Rave every once in a while. A lot of times it's an error, or it's, somebody's experimenting with the app. And it will work anywhere. So if, let's say you're in Boston, as an example, and you're a student and you download the app and you push the emergency communication button, as long as you have cell service, it's going to ring to our station, and it's going to show that person is in Boston. And what we'll do from there is we'll connect them with the Boston police or the state police, depending on the location, and get them the services and assistance that they need. So it's a pretty good app. It is free, you know, and, you know, we seem to see more downloads each year, you know, of our new students that come in. So I recommend that they download that. It's pretty simple. You just go to Rave Guardian, you download the app, you put your first, last name in and your email address, and it automatically links you with BSU PD because of the email address that you use. So it's pretty simple to use. As far as other safety pieces, we have several video cameras throughout the university property, in parking lots, along roadways, in our university park. The lobbies of all of our residence halls have video cameras in place. And those are monitored 24/7 at the police station by our civilian dispatchers. So we utilize those quite a bit. We have a number of safety programs that we offer from the police department. For example, I teach a civilian response to active attack and active shooter events. I'm a certified instructor from a national company. So we teach students and staff and faculty how to safely, you know, survive an active attack if you know, God forbid, one should ever happen. And these are national procedures. This isn't something I made up. So what we're teaching here, they're also teaching in Texas and California. It's a nationwide company. And the same principles will apply if you're at the shopping mall, in the movie theater, or in the classroom. So we do quite a bit of that. I'm also a first responder, CPR and AED instructor. We offer a free CPR and AED certification to our community. It's a 4-hour certification class. Students can sign up. I do a lot of them in the residence halls for our resident students. We do some for the commuter students. And it's a 2-year certification. It's completely free. We pay for all of it. And we've had some students that have been there, you know, 4 years, have done the class twice, and we have some that have graduated and continue to come back for their certification. With that, we have what's called a public access defibrillation program and a public access Narcan program. So we deploy approximately 60 AEDs throughout the university property. They're in parking lots. Every residence hall, every academic building has an AED in the main lobby. Some of our larger buildings have 2 or 3 units. So we provide that training and certification to the community. Even if you're not certified, it's a very, very simple machine to use. You follow the prompts and you can use it. It's similar to what you'd see in a shopping mall and things of that nature. It's a public access program. We maintain it. We also have in each of those units a Narcan station, or an opioid overdose kit that goes hand in hand with the AED. We also provide the training for the use of Narcan. We were the first in the country to launch a public access Narcan program, and that is not because we have an opioid problem or a drug problem on our campus. We've always been a proactive police department and a proactive university. President Clark, you know, likes to be the first to do anything. And, you know, my chief, David Tillinghast, likes to be the first in the police side to do anything. You know, it was a great program. So we maintain that and we provide the training as well. I do see a question just that I'll answer, you know, officers driving around and walking around campus. So yes, we are a full-fledged law enforcement police department, just like your hometown. We work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We never close. Even during the pandemic, our officers have been there. They've been working around the clock to, you know, keep our community safe. So we have officers on in cruiser patrols. We have officers on bicycles. We have officers on foot. They'll park the car and they'll walk parking lots. They'll visit, you know, with students at the residence halls, the front desks, the sidewalks, etc. So we are out patrolling campus 24 hours a day. There are officers out and about.
Thank you so much for all the information. That was awesome. We have a question in the chat that says, are there any work study options for students that already have certifications via HS, 911, dispatch certified, CPR, Narcan, etc.?
That's an excellent question. We do have 3 student workers right now that work for us. So unfortunately, we are not taking any new applications. We're only funded for 3 positions. And one of those positions is a cadet. And let me explain the cadet program. So the cadet program is funded by our university's internship office, and we are funded for 1 cadet, and it's a student that is a criminal justice major. They have to be a junior or a senior, and they have to be enrolled in the criminal justice program as a major. They have to, maintain a specific GPA and pass the interview oral board process, the background process. It's a pretty rigorous process to get through. And usually what we do with our cadet is we hire them as a junior and we have them for 2 years. And they train alongside our police officers. They're in a uniform. It's a soft uniform. They're not carrying any weapons or anything like that, though we do provide some certifications in some of the equipment. We will send them to an EMT class. We also run our own EMT program. So if students are interested in becoming EMTs, we have our own program. Right now, we're somewhat in between instructors. I don't know if we'll be up and running for the fall semester EMT program. It can't be done online, so it needs to be in person. There's a practical component that goes along with it. And depending on those restrictions, it may be not offered until the spring semester. However, if people are interested or your student is interested, you can certainly reach out to me and we'll make that happen, whether it's through us or we can hook you up with a nearby company. So they get that certification for free as a cadet. It's normally about $1,100. And we also send them to the part-time Reserve Intermittent Police Academy. And that's about $3,000. We pay for it. It comes out of the funding for that position. And the goal, that's about a 6-month program. The goal with our cadet program is upon graduation, if we have open positions, then they get hired as a full-time police officer right out of graduation. They've already have that minimum qualification that we require, and then we send them to the full academy at some point when they're ready to go after they do their pre-service training. We have right now one of our full-time police officers is one of our former cadets. He's been with us for 3 years. He was a cadet for almost 2 years, and now he's a full-time police officer. Our former cadets, one is a Rhode Island State Trooper, and one is a Bridgewater police officer. He worked for us as a full-time officer for a couple of years and now is on the Bridgewater Police. So it's been a very successful program. The unfortunate piece is we're only funded for 1. Ideally, we'd love to have, an unlimited amount, but we're only funded for that 1 position. As far as our clerical work study students, at the moment, we're on hold with our current work study students because of the budget and some of the cuts due to the pandemic. So if we're able to hire them back, then we're hoping we're able to hire them back. But at this current time, we're only slated for the 2 work study students and then the additional cadet. However, we have been discussing the potential of hiring a work study student where it doesn't come out of the police department's budget, because we have a couple of non-work study students that work for us to maintain our AED program, the Narcan, and some of the things that would be like a prerequisite for that would be, having your CPR AED certification already in place. Maybe having, an EMT license in place or a first responder certification as well as the CPR AED. But that's not definite. It's kind of in the works. As far as the dispatch piece, we do not currently have any of our students working in the dispatch center at all. And there's some reasons for that. There are some age requirements and other certifications that need to happen in order for students to sit there because of the CJIS, Criminal Justice Information System, and things of that nature. It's CORI information. And so at the moment, we do not offer employment for students for that.
Thank you so much. we did have a question about like walking on campus late at night. Is there anything that the BSU PD can help with if a student feels, uncomfortable walking across campus, or, is in a situation where they don't really feel comfortable at night? I believe you guys have a program, or you are willing to pick students up. Is there a little bit you could tell us about that?
Sure. Excellent question. It gets asked quite a bit. So the university has a transit department that runs, I believe it's 7 a.m. until I think it's either 2 a.m. I think it's 2 a.m. And correct me if I'm wrong on that. It used to be 3, and I think it's now 2 due to lack of calls. And so those are larger buses that will transport students anywhere they want to go on campus. They have an app where you can request the bus. They have routes that are available on the app. It's a, kind of a point-to-point on demand as well. They have some of the buses that will pick you up anywhere. We encourage students to utilize that service. We encourage them to wait in their vehicles in the parking lots with their lights on, doors locked. And same with the transit department. They encourage that as well. And they tell them, we'll look for you in your car. They'll pull right up to the back of the car and pick them up, bring them right to their residence hall. If it's after the time of that transit stops running, we recommend students either walk in groups, try to be home before 2 a.m. if possible. We know people are out studying past 2 a.m. And they may not get home in time. But if somebody doesn't feel safe, we have a female student, who's by herself, gets home late and doesn't feel safe, they can certainly call the station and request a ride. And when an officer is free and available, we will certainly pick them up. The problem with that is it's not on demand. So if somebody called us, they may have to wait 15, 20, 30 minutes. If we have other things that are going on at that same time, emergency type calls, and the officers are not free, that's kind of our busy time frame, then they're told to kind of wait in the car and leave the lights on, leave the doors locked. So I don't want people to think that they can call us and like an Uber ride or a taxi, they're there in 5 minutes. Sometimes that's the case. More often than not, there is a significant wait.
Thank you. So it looked like we had a follow-up question about the cadet position. It says this individual, their student is looking at more of a psychology angle, but has all the certifications that would be worth applying to go on a list for one of the non-cadet positions to work in your office. Would it just be, do you think, like worthwhile for this individual to apply or wait a couple years?
Well, one of the requirements is they have to be a criminal justice major. That is a requirement for the cadet position. However, we've had other students that have asked. They have an interest in criminal justice. They're not sure which angle they want to get into yet. And they've asked, should I go through the process? And I always tell them, yes, you should go through the process because, it gives you that experience, the interview experience, and, maybe we have other positions that may be available. We've had some students that have come in and have not been criminal justice majors that have worked in our non-work study program, so our student employment side, and they haven't been CJ majors. And then working alongside of the officers in our department and myself and some of our other command staff members, they have now switched their major to criminal justice, and they want to get into the law enforcement field. So we would always encourage that. And I will tell you that I meet with a number of students, throughout their time at BSU. I've mentored a number of students when they've become students as freshmen. I've communicated with them, we've kept in touch, and we've met on a regular basis all the way till graduation. And there are students today who are in law enforcement jobs because of them coming into our department and meeting with some of our officers, myself, other members of the department, and they're now working as police officers after graduation. We can help with some job placement. I can help navigate the process, civil service, non-civil service. Massachusetts is a very, very competitive state for law enforcement. I can help. What should students be doing as a freshman, a sophomore, junior, senior, and help navigate that process to getting them closer to their goals. So I would encourage any student that's on this call, at the end, when I give you my email address, give that to them, have them email me as soon as they come in, and I'd be happy to meet over the phone, over Zoom, or in person at some point, hopefully, at the station, and kind of give them an overview of the department. We used to, prior to the pandemic, we did a ride-along program. That's going to be on hold for a little while for obvious reasons. But the ride-along program is a great experience for students that want to get into the field. They do a couple of ride-alongs with our officers and see what it's all about. I don't know when that will be starting back up. It will be on hold for the foreseeable future. But certainly they should reach out if they have any interest at all, and we can certainly help. I see in one of the questions a psychology major. The Wellness Center would be a great place to talk to the director there, the executive director, Dr. Chris Frazier. I know they do internships there, and they have some student employment roles alongside the counseling center, and I think that might be the best avenue for somebody that may want to get into the mental health side or the psychology side of things.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask the big question that I know a lot of parents typically have, but what is BSU's drug and alcohol policy?
That's a great question. Everybody asks that. So BSU has what we call it's kind of a zero tolerance policy, or it has been. It's been somewhat, I don't want to say relaxed over the last year or two, but we're taking some, not relaxed, I should say, that's kind of a bad term. We're taking some different approaches to our alcohol policy enforcement. We're doing a lot more education, if you will. But essentially, if a student is in possession of alcohol and they're under the age of 21, it's against the law in Massachusetts. They can't legally possess it. So a range of things can happen. They could be arrested. They could be summoned to court and appear at a later date, or the alcohol could be confiscated and they could be they could have to appear before the community standards department, or all three. Sometimes the student's arrested and they're also brought forward to the community standards department. With the criminal side of things, all arrests are taken to our own police station. We process all of our own arrests. The one thing people ask is, is my son or daughter going to have a record if they get arrested for alcohol and they're underage? And the answer is yes and no. So if it's their first time and they've been arrested for minor in possession and they've never been arrested before, we have a program called diversion. And it's something that we've worked out with the Brockton District Court. Our department's court prosecutor, who is a detective sergeant, he takes all of our cases to court. And if the student meets that criteria and they can, go through the diversion program, it's some alcohol classes, some educational classes, some fines, and then it does not appear on their criminal record. Okay, and that's kind of a first-time offense. If they've been arrested multiple times for the same offense, then they wouldn't be eligible for the diversion program for alcohol-type offenses. This does not include operating under the influence of alcohol. This is just straight minor in possession of alcohol. So it's more of an educational piece. We realize that, young adults are going to make mistakes. They're going to, experiment and make these, bad choices and use bad judgment. We understand that. We've all been there, and it happens. So we try to help them navigate through that process, give them some education, and get them back on track, to making good decisions and keeping safe. As far as drug enforcement is concerned, so we all know that marijuana has been legalized, decriminalized in Massachusetts. If you're over the age of 21, you can possess up to 1 ounce of marijuana. If you're under the age of 21, if you're in possession of under 1 ounce, it's a civil citation for $100 that you can receive. You can no longer be arrested for possession of under 1 ounce of marijuana if you're under 21 or over 21. We have no control over that. That's the new laws in the state. The university, it's still a policy violation, and the university accepts federal funding for financial aid. And in order to continue to accept federal funding, the university has to follow federal law when it comes to policies. And the marijuana is still illegal on the federal side. and therefore it's still a violation of university policy. However, it is not enforced by the police department. If somebody has, less than 1 ounce, that would be enforced by the community standards department. And as far as, sanctions and outcomes within community standards, that's really a question for the director of that department. I don't want to speak out of school, but, what I will say is, we base our decisions on the totality of the circumstances. We try to work with students as best we can. However, sometimes, the arrest is the most appropriate response. And the reason for that is we feel, based on our statistical data over the last 15, 20 years, by sometimes removing the student from that environment if they're drinking, and taking them out of that environment and placing them in, under arrest or in protective custody, which I'll speak to in a moment, it keeps them safe, and it prevents, further drinking. It prevents them from becoming a victim of assault or victims of other crimes if we remove that person from that environment, as well as the alcohol. So our statistics have shown, when we started, being more proactive on alcohol enforcement many, many years ago, our numbers of crime and assaults dramatically decreased as a result of our enforcement efforts, university-wide. So it is effective, it does work, and we've seen that over the years. Protective custody is a tool that we have under the law, that if somebody is intoxicated and is unable to care for themselves and is a danger to themselves or others due to drinking too much, we can place them in what's called protective custody. They can be held for up to 12 hours, either at the police station or at the hospital, depending on their condition. Sometimes people will get transported by ambulance because of alcohol incapacitation. Sometimes they are taken to the station and they're released from the station. We do continue to do that, and that is exactly what it's called, protective custody. It does not go on somebody's criminal record. It is not an arrest. It's a protective custody to take them out of that environment and keep them safe and under watch so that they're not drinking more, and now it becomes a medical emergency because they've drank so much where they're intoxicated and unconscious, or they become victim of some other type of crime. So that's kind of how we handle the alcohol and the drug policy. And obviously other drugs, excluding marijuana, are illegal, and we will enforce that, as well as through university sanctions, through community standards.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up to our audience to see if anyone has any questions. Again, please feel free to turn your mics on to ask a question or ask it in the chat section. This is the time for you, so please feel free to ask what you would like.
I do see just one question there that's been there for a bit, if I may. What's the difference between student employment and work study? Essentially, student employment comes out of the department's budget. So each department on campus may be funded for a small amount of student employees, and that's budgeted every year. Whereas work study is through financial aid. It's through the student's financial aid package. So the department doesn't pay for that. It comes out of the financial aid piece. That's kind of the short version. If you wanted more in-depth reasons or answers to that, I would ask the financial aid department in one of these sessions. Currently, we have, as I said, 2 student employees and 1 student cadet that are funded through the university. We don't have any work study at the moment, and simply that's because we just don't have the volume of work with those 3 students to provide enough work to keep other work study students busy. We just don't have the volume at the moment.
Thank you. I didn't even see that question, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Could you talk about how big the police department is on campus and how many officers do work on campus?
Sure. So right now, our department has 23 full-time sworn police officers. That's from the chief down to the most junior patrol officer. We have 1 part-time person that he's a civilian. He works within the detective bureau. He's a retired sergeant. He was our detective sergeant, court prosecutor, so he works part-time, about 15, 12 hours a week. We have 4 civilian dispatchers that are our civilian call takers, answer the phone. You know, they're in charge of dispatching the calls to the officers, monitoring the cameras, etc. We have, we're slated for 6 part-time parking enforcement officers. They're civilians, and they write our parking tickets and do our our parking enforcement in our parking lots. And they work about 20 hours per week. And then we have, the chief has a civilian, an office manager, and his assistant. And she's a civilian. She works in the office, directly for the chief. And we have the few students that work for us. And that's pretty much it. So all in all, with our students, civilian staff, and sworn staff, we're just under 40 people. But as far as sworn officers, 23 is the number.
I didn't even know that, so thank you. That's a good piece of information for me to know. Again, I'm going to open it up to questions. Please feel free to turn your mics on or ask a question in the chat. All right, so if we don't have any questions, I'm going to allow the Assistant Chief to put his information in the chat section. So if anyone wants to reach out to the BSU Police Department, they're more than welcome to. Is that correct?
Yes. If you want, I can share some contact info.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Can you turn that feature on? It says you have to do that for me.
Yes, we'll look into that right now.
I think if you go to share screen, you can allow me permission to do that, I believe. Maybe.
We are still learning technology as well, as we can tell.
Okay. If not, I can try to pull it up here. Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right. Can everybody see that? So our contact info is there, at 911 for an emergency. The general business line is the 508-531-1212. Our department's website is there, and then some of our social media and smartphone app, the Rave Guardian, our Facebook account, our Instagram and Twitter account are there. I would encourage you to take a photograph of this and certainly follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. Check out our webpage. It'll talk a little bit more about the services we offer, some of the programs that we do in a little bit more detail. You can look at our annual Clery report, our crime report that's required every October. So the report that's up now is from October of 2018. It's approximately a year behind is essentially, how they run that. But that will show you, it's about 100 pages or so, a very in-depth look at the PD services, crime statistics for the last several years in a number of different areas. So it's a very helpful report. My email address, I can certainly write in the chat screen if everybody is all set with the screen. I can figure this out. There we go, perfect. Okay.
While the Assistant Chief is putting his information in the chat feature, I just want to remind everyone that we do have another Q&A session this week on Thursday at 12 o'clock, and that's going to be with our Wellness Center and our Sexually Violence Advocacy and Support Center. So please feel free to come. But if we don't have any questions, I'm going to be conscious of time. Thank you so much for everyone for attending. Thank you again, Assistant Chief Michael Froyo. We really appreciate you coming out. And we look forward to seeing you all very soon. Michelle and I will stay on, so if anyone has any last minute questions, they're more than welcome to ask us. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And please stay safe, and enjoy the rest of your summer. My email is in the screen. If there's anything I can be of assistance of, you have a question after the fact that you think of, please just reach out and I'll get back to you, pretty quickly. I look forward to, to seeing your students in the fall. Thank you guys very much.